Dr. Sarah Chen looked around the massive conference hall and tried not to feel small. The orbital station Asclepius Prime was bigger than most cities on Earth. Thousands of aliens filled the seats around her. Some had 6 arms, others had scales that changed color when they talked. A few looked like walking trees with eyes. Sarah was one of only 3 humans at the Galactic Medical Symposium. The other 2 sat far away in different sections. She felt very alone among all these strange beings. The lights dimmed, and a tall, thin alien walked onto the stage. This was Zelthek, the chief medical administrator of the Veltar species. His skin was blue and smooth, and his eyes were large and black. When he spoke, his voice was cold and sharp. "Fellow medical professionals," Zelthek began. "Today we will discuss the final ranking of species resilience. Our 10-year study is now complete." A huge screen appeared behind him. It showed a list of different alien species. Sarah saw hundreds of names she had never heard before. At the very top were the Veltar themselves. Below them were the Coranian Empire, the hive minds of Sector 7, and many others. Sarah looked for humans on the list. She found them at the very bottom. Below even the Shimar, who were made of living crystal, and could break if someone spoke too loudly. The alien audience made sounds that Sarah guessed were laughter. Clicks, buzzes, and musical tones filled the air. She felt her face turn red but kept looking straight ahead. "The human species," Zelthek continued, pointing at the screen, "scored the lowest in every category we tested. Their skin tears easily. Their bones break from small impacts. They live for less than 100 years. They get sick from the smallest germs." More laughter filled the hall. Sarah took out her tablet and began taking notes. She wrote down everything Zelthek was saying. "Humans have somehow convinced themselves they are strong," Zelthek said. His voice grew louder and more mocking. "They apply to join the Galactic Health Corps every year. They want to help treat patients across the galaxy. But how can such weak beings help anyone?" The screen changed to show pictures from Earth. Sarah saw images of human hospitals, human doctors, and human patients. But the way Zelthek showed them made everything look primitive and backward. "Look at their medical tools," Zelthek said. "Simple metal instruments. Basic scanners. They still use needles to inject medicine. Their hospitals look like storage buildings." Sarah knew this was not fair. Human medicine had come very far in recent years. But compared to the advanced alien technology around her, she had to admit Earth's equipment looked basic. "The worst part," Zelthek continued, "is that humans refuse to accept their place. They keep trying to prove they belong among the advanced species. This is dangerous. Weak species who think they are strong make mistakes. These mistakes cost lives." Sarah felt anger building inside her chest. She had spent 15 years as a doctor. She had saved hundreds of lives. She had worked in war zones and disaster areas. She was not weak, but she stayed quiet and kept taking notes. "Therefore," Zelthek announced, "the Galactic Medical Council has decided that humans need what we call medical humiliation. They must face the truth about their weakness. Only then will they stop embarrassing themselves and others." The alien audience erupted in approval. The sounds were so loud that Sarah felt them in her bones. She looked around and saw aliens nodding, clapping, and making gestures she did not understand. Zelthek raised one long arm, and the noise stopped. His large black eyes found Sarah in the crowd. She felt like a mouse being watched by a hawk. "I see we have a human representative here today," Zelthek said. His voice carried across the hall without any need for amplification. "Dr. Sarah Chen, from Earth's Stanford Medical Center." All eyes turned to Sarah. She felt thousands of alien gazes on her. Some looked curious. Others looked amused. A few looked disgusted. "Dr. Chen," Zelthek called out, "perhaps you would like to demonstrate human resilience for us? We could arrange a simple test. Nothing too dangerous, of course. We would not want to harm such a fragile being." Sarah stood up slowly. She knew this was a trap. Zelthic wanted to humiliate her in front of everyone, but she also knew that backing down would be worse. "What kind of test?" she asked. Her voice sounded small in the huge hall. "A medical trial," Zelthic said with what might have been a smile. "We will expose volunteers from different species to various challenges. Diseases, toxins, extreme conditions. We will see which species lasts longest." Sarah felt her heart beating faster. This was exactly the kind of challenge that could kill her. Aliens had stronger immune systems, tougher bodies, better healing. Humans would lose badly. "The trial will be broadcast across the galaxy," Zelthic continued. "When humans fail first, everyone will see the truth. Your species can finally accept its proper place." Sarah thought about her options. If she said no, she would look like a coward. Humans would be marked as weak forever. If she said yes, she would probably die or be badly hurt on live television for the entire galaxy to see. But there was something in Zelthic's voice that bothered her. Too much confidence. Too much certainty. In her experience, doctors who were completely sure about everything were often wrong about something important. "I accept," Sarah said. The hall exploded in noise again. This time, it sounded more excited than amused. Sarah sat back down and continued taking notes. She had just agreed to what might be her own death sentence, but she had an idea forming in the back of her mind. Something about the way Zelthic had described the test. Something about diseases and toxins and extreme conditions. Something that might surprise everyone, including Zelthic himself. 3 days later, Sarah stood in a smaller meeting room with Zelthic and 5 other alien medical officials. The room smelled like ozone and something sweet that made her nose itch. "The trial will be simple," Zelthic explained. He touched a control pad, and a holographic display appeared in the air between them. "We will use Blight 7, a bacterial strain that has killed millions across the galaxy." Sarah studied the display. The bacteria looked like tiny spirals under the microscope image. She had never seen anything like it before. "Blight 7 eats living tissue," continued Dr. Morax, a Coranian with gray skin and 4 arms. "It spreads fast and kills within hours. Whole colonies have been destroyed by this disease. We will start with a weak sample," said Zelthic. "Then we will increase the strength until species begin to fail. The last species standing will be declared the winner, and the first to fail will be publicly humiliated," added Dr. Keentha, a insect-like being whose words came out as clicks and buzzes. Sarah's translator turned them into flat, emotionless sentences. Sarah nodded as if she understood and accepted her fate. Inside, her mind was working fast. She had heard of colony-killing diseases before. Earth had dealt with similar problems in the past. "I have one condition," Sarah said. The aliens looked at each other. Zelthic's eyes narrowed. "You are in no position to make demands, human." "It's not a demand," Sarah said calmly. "It's a request. I want the trial to happen at Mercy Station, our medical outpost in the frontier systems." "Why?" Morax asked. His 4 arms crossed over his chest in what Sarah guessed was suspicion. "When I get sick and need emergency treatment," Sarah said, "I want my own equipment and colleagues nearby. I know we'll lose, but I'd rather not die completely alone." This seemed reasonable to the aliens. They talked among themselves in languages Sarah's translator could not handle. Finally, Zelthic turned back to her. "Acceptable. We will bring our own medical teams to treat you when you fail. We are not monsters." Sarah almost smiled at that. "Thank you." 1 week later, 5 alien medical ships arrived at Mercy Station. Sarah watched them dock from the observation deck. Each ship was sleek and beautiful, with smooth curves and glowing lights. They looked like artwork compared to the simple metal boxes that humans used for space travel. Mercy Station itself was nothing special. It was a small outpost built around a rotating cylinder. The medical wing was basic but clean. 30 beds, standard equipment, and a small research lab. It had been built to treat injuries from mining accidents and deep space missions. Dr. James Wright met Sarah at the airlock. He was her oldest friend from medical school and the station's chief physician. "Are you sure about this, Sarah?" he asked, as they walked through the corridors. "These aliens are serious about proving we're weak." "I know," Sarah said. "But I think they're wrong about something important." "What do you mean?" Sarah stopped walking and looked at her friend. "James, do you remember our infectious disease courses? All those old Earth plagues we studied?" "Of course. Bubonic plague, smallpox, Spanish flu, nasty stuff. And what did our professors always say about Earth compared to other worlds?" James thought for a moment. "That we were unlucky. Most worlds don't have diseases that bad." "Exactly," Sarah smiled now. "Most worlds don't have diseases that bad." Before James could ask what she meant, they heard voices ahead. The alien medical teams were setting up their equipment in the main lab. Sarah and James entered to find controlled chaos. The Veltar team had brought machines that hummed and glowed with blue light. The Koranians were unpacking devices that looked like metal flowers. The Shimar delegation carefully arranged crystalline instruments that rang like bells when touched. "Primitive," one of the Veltar assistants said as he looked around the human medical bay. "How do they perform surgery with such simple tools?" "Carefully," Sarah said from the doorway. The assistant jumped. He had not heard her approach. Sarah noticed that many of the aliens seemed nervous about being in a human medical facility. "Dr. Chen," Zelthek said as he approached, "your station is adequate for our purposes. We have brought everything needed to conduct the trial safely." "I'm sure you have," Sarah said. "When do we start?" "Tomorrow at dawn. We want the entire galaxy to watch this live broadcast. The humiliation will be complete." That evening, Sarah sat in her quarters with Dr. Wright and the rest of the human medical team. There were only 6 of them total. 3 doctors and 3 nurses. They looked worried. "Sarah," said Dr. Lisa Park, "I've been reading about Blight 7. This stuff has wiped out entire star systems. The mortality rate is close to 100%. "I know," Sarah said. "Then why are you doing this?" asked Nurse Martinez. "Why are any of us doing this?" Sarah looked around at her colleagues. These were good people who had volunteered to work at a frontier medical station. They had left comfortable lives on Earth to help others in the dangerous outer systems. "Because I think Earth prepared us for this in ways the aliens don't understand," Sarah said. "James, pull up the medical database. Look up some of Earth's old diseases. Start with the really bad ones." James worked at his tablet for a few minutes. Then his eyes went wide. "Sarah, some of these symptoms look familiar. Keep reading. The tissue damage patterns, the infection rates." "Sarah, you don't think?" "I think Blight 7 might have relatives on Earth. Old relatives, the kind we learned to fight thousands of years ago." Dr. Park looked confused. "What do you mean?" Sarah stood and walked to the window. Outside, she could see the alien ships glowing in the darkness of space. They looked so confident and powerful. "Evolution is a funny thing," Sarah said. "Earth is a very dangerous place to live. We've been fighting diseases, poisons, parasites, and toxins since we climbed down from the trees. Our immune systems had to get very, very good at dealing with nasty things. And these aliens come from safer worlds," James said slowly. "Places where the diseases aren't as bad." "Exactly." Sarah turned back to her team. "They think we're weak because we look fragile on the outside. But inside, where it counts, we might be tougher than anything they've ever seen." The next morning, as dawn broke over Mercy Station, Sarah put on her cleanest lab coat and walked toward the testing facility. She was about to find out if her theory was right. If she was wrong, she would probably die on live television in front of the entire galaxy. If she was right, everything was about to change. The testing room was crowded with cameras and monitoring equipment. Sarah sat on a simple human examination table while aliens prepared injection devices that looked like they belonged in a science fiction movie. 5 other species had volunteers for the test. The Veltar representative was a young male who looked calm and confident. The Koranian volunteer was a female, with silver markings on her gray skin. The others were species Sarah had never seen before. "We are broadcasting live to over 4 billion worlds," Zelthek announced to the cameras. "Today we will demonstrate the medical truth that some species refuse to accept. Sarah watched the monitors showing her vital signs. Heart rate normal. Blood pressure normal. She felt fine. But she tried to look nervous for the cameras. "We begin with Blight 7 strain alpha," Dr. Morax said, as he prepared the first injections. "This is the weakest version we have. It should cause only minor symptoms in healthy adults." The injections began. Each volunteer received the same dose at the same time. Sarah felt the needle go into her arm. The liquid inside felt cold as it entered her bloodstream. "Now we wait," Zelthic said. For the first 10 minutes, nothing happened. All 6 volunteers sat quietly, while machines monitored their bodies. Sarah actually felt a little disappointed. Maybe her theory was wrong. Then the Shimar volunteer started to shake. "We have a reaction," Dr. Keentha announced. The crystal being's body was changing color, from clear to a sickly yellow. Severe tissue inflammation. Administering treatment now. Within minutes, the Shimar needed emergency care. 2 other volunteers began showing symptoms. Their skin developed rashes, and their temperatures spiked. Sarah felt nothing. No fever, no nausea, no skin changes. Her monitors showed completely normal readings. "Interesting," Zelthek said, looking at Sarah's data. "The human shows no reaction yet. Perhaps her system is simply slow to respond. Or perhaps the dose was too weak," suggested Dr. Morax. Zelthek nodded. "Prepare strain, beta. Double the concentration. Train Proudet." Sarah received the second injection. This one hurt a bit going in, but that was normal. Some medicines stung. This time, reactions came faster. Within 5 minutes, 3 more volunteers needed medical attention. Angry red welts appeared on their skin. Some started coughing up blood. Sarah checked her own arms for any signs of infection. Nothing. Her skin looked exactly the same as when she had started. "Still no human reaction," reported Dr. Park, who was monitoring Sarah's vitals. "All readings normal." "Impossible," Zelthek said. He walked over to examine Sarah personally. The injection site should at least be inflamed. There should be some immune response. "Maybe there is," Sarah said quietly. "Maybe my immune system is just handling it." Zelthik made a sound that might have been alien laughter. "Human immune systems are weak. Our studies proved this. We will increase to strain gamma." By now, only Sarah and the Veltar volunteer remained in the test. The Koranian had been rushed to intensive care after her blood pressure dropped dangerously low. The third injection was larger. Sarah could see that the liquid was thicker and darker than before. When it went into her arm, she felt a slight warmth spreading through her body. "Ah," Zelthek said with satisfaction. Now the human shows signs of reaction, but the warmth faded quickly. Sarah's body temperature returned to normal within minutes. Her immune system had found the invaders and dealt with them efficiently. The Veltar volunteer was not so lucky. His blue skin turned purple, then gray. His breathing became labored and painful. "Medical emergency," Dr. Morax called out. "Subject requires immediate intervention." As the Veltar was carried away on a floating stretcher, Sarah sat alone on her examination table. She was the only volunteer left. "This cannot be correct," Zelthik said, staring at the monitors. "Check the equipment. Check the samples." "Something is wrong. All equipment is functioning normally," reported Dr. Keentha. "The samples are active and virulent. The human simply shows no reaction. Then we increase to strain Delta." "Sir," Dr. Morax said carefully, "strain Delta killed an entire Koranian colony in 6 hours. Perhaps we should stop." "No." Zelthek's voice was sharp with frustration. "We continue until the human fails. Prepare the injection. We know. Artuni when the useness." Sarah saw the fear in the alien doctor's eyes as they prepared the 4th dose. This was clearly dangerous beyond anything they had expected to use. "Are you sure about this?" Dr. Wright asked Sarah quietly. "I'm sure," she said. The 4th injection burned as it went in. Sarah felt her body temperature rise by a full degree. Her heart rate increased slightly. For a moment, She wondered if she had finally reached her limit. Then her immune system kicked into high gear. She could almost feel her white blood cells mobilizing, her antibodies forming, her cellular defenses activating. Within 20 minutes, all her vital signs returned to normal. Impossible, Zelthek repeated. He was pacing now, his confidence completely gone. Run a genetic scan. Check for artificial enhancements. No natural immune system can handle Blight 7 at this concentration. Genetic scan complete, Dr. Keentha reported. The human is completely natural. No modifications detected. Then how? Sarah decided it was time to speak up. She had let this go on long enough. Dr. Zelthek, she said calmly, may I ask you something about Blight 7? The alien stopped pacing and stared at her. What? Where did it originally come from? What world? It was first discovered on Kepler 442b, during the colony expansion period, about 400 years ago. Sarah nodded. And the symptoms you described? Tissue damage? Rapid infection? Respiratory failure? Yes. Why? Because we have something very similar on Earth. We've had it for thousands of years. The room went quiet. Even the camera operator stopped moving. What do you mean? Zelthek asked. We call it streptococcal necrotizing fasciitis, Sarah said. Children sometimes get it. We treat it with basic antibiotics. The silence stretched longer. Sarah could see the alien doctors looking at each other with confusion and growing alarm. That's impossible, Dr. Morak said finally. Blight 7 is one of the most dangerous pathogens in the galaxy. To you, maybe, Sarah said. But Earth is what you might call a death world. We evolved alongside bacteria, viruses, parasites, and toxins that would kill most species in the galaxy. Our immune systems learned to fight things that you can't even imagine. She stood up from the examination table. What you call Blight 7, we call Tuesday. Zelthek's large black eyes were wider than Sarah had ever seen them. You're saying that humans evolved on a world so dangerous that galactic superpathogens are common illnesses? Not just common, Sarah said. We've been dealing with worse for millions of years. Ebola, tuberculosis, the Black Death, smallpox, Spanish flu, things that make Blight 7 look like a mild cold. The cameras were still rolling. Sarah knew that billions of beings across the galaxy were watching this conversation. The mighty Veltar, who had declared humans weak and pathetic, were learning that their most feared diseases were barely worth noticing on Earth. We don't need medical humiliation, Sarah continued. We need to share what we've learned, because if Blight 7 is the worst you've ever seen, then human medicine might be able to help you with problems you didn't even know could be solved. The footage spread across the galactic communication networks faster than anything in recorded history. Within 6 hours, the video of Sarah calmly sitting through injections of galaxy-ending bioweapons was being broadcast on every world with communication technology. Sarah stood in Mercy Station's communication center, watching the feeds pour in. News channels, medical networks, even entertainment programs were showing the same impossible images over and over. This is incredible, Dr. Wright said, reading messages on his tablet. We're getting communication requests from medical facilities in every sector of the galaxy. Look at this, Dr. Park added, pointing to her screen. The Andorian Medical Council wants to send a delegation. The Zephyrian Empire is asking for consultation on a plague that's been killing their people for decades. Sarah watched one news broadcast where an alien reporter was trying to explain what had happened. The being looked like a tall flower with eyes, and its translator was struggling with human medical terms. The human, the reporter said, remained conscious and alert while being injected with enough Blight 7 to kill a small city. She then claimed this was similar to common childhood illnesses on her homeworld. In the medical bay, the alien doctors who had come to watch Sarah's humiliation were treating their own volunteers. The Veltar representative was still unconscious after receiving only the 3rd injection. The Koranian was stable but would need weeks of recovery. Dr. Chen, Zelthek called out. Sarah found him standing beside his colleague's medical bed. The arrogant confidence was completely gone from his voice. May I ask you something? Of course. You said Earth has diseases worse than Blight 7. How much worse? Sarah thought about how to answer this without sounding cruel. Do you want specific examples or general categories? Examples. Well, we had something called tuberculosis. It infected about 1/3 of the human population at various times in history. It could lie dormant in your body for years, then suddenly activate and destroy your lungs. We also had malaria, which killed hundreds of millions of people. Cholera could kill you in hours through dehydration. And that's not counting the really bad ones. Zelthek's skin had turned a pale shade of blue. The really bad ones? Ebola killed 90% of people who got it. Smallpox killed 300 million people in just the 20th century alone. The 1918 flu pandemic killed more humans than your entire species has ever produced. How did your species survive? We adapted. We got stronger. We developed medicine. Sarah paused. Would you like me to show you? An hour later, Sarah stood in the medical bay with a collection of basic human medical supplies. Word had somehow spread through the alien medical teams, and now dozens of them crowded around to watch. This is a simple antibiotic, Sarah said, holding up a small white pill. We use it to treat basic infections. Dr. Zelthek, you mentioned that your colleague has been suffering from a neurological condition? Yes, Veltar neural syndrome. It affects about 3% of our population. The nerve pathways slowly degrade until the patient loses motor function. There is no cure. May I examine the patient? Zelthek hesitated, then nodded. Sarah approached the medical bed, where a female Veltar lay connected to alien monitoring equipment. Sarah studied the readouts, though she had to guess at most of the symbols. Dr. Wright, she called. Bring me a basic antiviral compound, something we'd use for a simple infection. Sarah, are you sure about this? Trust me. Dr. Wright returned with a standard human medication. Sarah prepared a small injection and administered it to the Veltar patient. What are you doing? Zelthek demanded. That is not approved for Veltar physiology. Human physiology is compatible with most carbon-based life, Sarah said. And this antiviral works by targeting viral RNA structures that appear to be universal. They waited. The alien monitors showed the patient's neural activity patterns. Slowly, the erratic readings began to stabilize. Impossible, whispered Dr. Morax. Within an hour, the Veltar patient was awake and moving her limbs normally. The neural degradation had stopped and was actually reversing. How? Zelthek asked. Your neural syndrome is caused by a slow-acting virus, Sarah explained. Something similar to what we call a prion disease on Earth. This antiviral breaks down the viral proteins and allows the neural pathways to heal. Word of the cure spread even faster than the original footage. By the end of the day, Sarah was receiving emergency calls from across the galaxy. Dr. Chen, came a transmission from the Koranian homeworld. We have a genetic condition that has plagued our species for thousands of years. Could human medicine help? Dr. Chen called another message from the Zephyrian Empire. Our children are dying from a plague our doctors cannot cure. We are desperate. Sarah looked at the growing pile of requests. Diseases that had killed millions. Genetic conditions that had been accepted as incurable. Plagues that had destroyed entire civilizations. We're going to need more staff, Dr. Wright said quietly. And more supplies, added Dr. Park. And a much bigger station, said Nurse Martinez. That evening, Sarah sat in her quarters reviewing patient files that alien doctors had transmitted. Each case represented thousands or millions of beings who were suffering from conditions that human medicine could probably treat. There was a knock at her door. She opened it to find Zelthek standing in the corridor. He looked tired and somehow smaller than before. Dr. Chen, may I speak with you privately? Come in. Zelthek entered and stood awkwardly in the middle of the small room. Sarah waited for him to speak. I owe you an apology, he said finally. I was wrong about humans. About your medical capabilities. About everything. You were working with incomplete information, Sarah said gently. That's not the same as being wrong. I humiliated your species in front of the galaxy. I called you weak and pathetic, and now the galaxy knows the truth. Sometimes being wrong publicly is the fastest way to find the right answer. Zelthek was quiet for a long moment. The Veltar Medical Council has voted to formally retract our species resilience study. We are also requesting that humans be granted emergency membership in the Galactic Health Corps. That's very kind. But we have a lot to learn about galactic medicine first. No, Zelthek said firmly. You have a lot to teach. We have contacted Earth's medical authorities. Ships are already being prepared to bring human doctors and medical supplies to worlds in crisis. Sarah walked to her window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, beings were dying from diseases that Earth had conquered centuries ago. Human doctors could save them. Dr. Chen, Zelthek said, may I ask you one more question? Of course. If Earth is as dangerous as you say, if humans are as resilient as you've proven, why do you want to help the rest of us? We are weaker than you. We offer you nothing in return. Sarah turned back to him. Because that's what doctors do. We help people who are sick. It doesn't matter if they're human or alien, weak or strong. If we can help, we do. The next morning, Sarah woke to find 3 more ships in orbit around Mercy Station. The first wave of desperate patients had arrived. 3 months after the trial, Sarah stood at the window of her new office watching the pre-dawn sky. Below her, a line of alien patients stretched for kilometers across the expanded Mercy Station complex. They came from hundreds of different worlds, all hoping for human medical treatment. The small frontier outpost had grown into the largest medical facility in the galaxy. Construction ships worked around the clock to add new wings, new docking bays, and new treatment centers. What had once been 30 beds was now over 3,000, with more being added every week. Director Chen called Dr. Velkan, her new assistant. The young Veltar had graduated at the top of his medical class and specifically requested to work under human supervision. The morning schedule is ready for your review. Sarah accepted the tablet and scrolled through the day's appointments. A Koranian family with a genetic condition that human gene therapy could fix. A group of Zephyrian children suffering from a plague that human antibiotics would cure in days. An entire delegation from the hive minds seeking treatment for a parasitic infection that was devastating their colonies. Any emergencies? She asked. 3 ships arrived overnight with critical patients, Velkan replied. The Shimar vessel has a child with crystalline fractures that human bone-setting techniques can repair. The Andranian transport brought an adult with neural decay that responds well to human psychiatric medications. And the 3rd ship? Velkan hesitated. It carries Chief Medical Administrator Zelthek. Sarah looked up from the tablet. Zelthek is here? As a patient? Yes, Director. He has developed Veltar neural syndrome. The same condition you cured in the other patient during the trial. Sarah felt a mix of sadness and irony. The being who had declared humans medically inferior was now seeking their help for his own survival. Schedule him for this afternoon, she said. Make sure he gets the same care as any other patient. Yes, Director. Sarah walked through the corridors of the expanded station. Everywhere she looked, human doctors worked alongside alien medical staff. Dr. Wright was teaching a group of Koranian physicians how to perform a surgery that was routine on Earth, but revolutionary in their society. Dr. Park was demonstrating how human pain medications worked on alien nervous systems. In the children's ward, Nurse Martinez was comforting a young Zephyrian whose species had never experienced painless medical treatment before. The child's parents watched in amazement as human techniques that were hundreds of years old worked miracles on their offspring. Dr. Chen called Dr. Marcus Webb, one of the new arrivals from Earth. You need to see this. Sarah followed him to the research wing, where human and alien scientists worked together to understand why human medicine was so effective across species barriers. We've been analyzing the genetic structures of various galactic species, Dr. Webb explained, pointing to displays full of DNA sequences. It turns out that most worlds in this galaxy are what we would call garden worlds, beautiful, peaceful, with relatively mild diseases. And Earth is unique. It's one of the most biologically aggressive worlds anyone has ever catalogued. Our diseases, our parasites, our toxins, they're all far beyond what most species have ever faced. Sarah studied the data. So our immune systems are massively over-engineered for most galactic conditions. It's like bringing military-grade equipment to fix household problems. WS. A soft chime indicated an incoming message. Sarah accepted the transmission and found herself looking at Admiral Korvash of the Galactic Health Corps. Director Chen, the alien said with deep respect. I'm calling to inform you that the Corps has voted unanimously to restructure our organization under human medical leadership. I'm honored, Admiral, but that seems excessive. Director, human medicine has solved more galactic health crises in 3 months than we managed in 3 centuries. We have no choice but to acknowledge your species' superior medical knowledge. After the call ended, Sarah continued her rounds. In the burn ward, she found a group of alien doctors studying how human skin grafts worked on non-human patients. In the infectious disease center, researchers were cataloging Earth bacteria that could be used to fight alien pathogens. It's almost overwhelming, Doctor, Wright said when Sarah found him in the break room. Every day we get requests from new species. Diseases that have killed millions for thousands of years. Conditions they thought were impossible to cure. And we're helping them, Sarah said. Yes, but it makes you think. How many humans died from diseases that these aliens could have cured easily if we had known about each other sooner? That afternoon, Sarah sat across from Zelthik in her office. The proud alien medical administrator looked smaller and more fragile than she remembered. His skin had the pale color that indicated advancing neural syndrome. Dr. Chen, he said quietly, I have come to ask for treatment. Of course, we'll start the antiviral therapy immediately. I also come to apologize. Not just for myself, but for my entire species. We were blind to human capabilities. Sarah prepared the injection that would cure his condition. You weren't blind. You were working with incomplete data. That's not the same thing. You are being generous. I'm being honest. Sarah administered the medication. Medical knowledge grows when species share information. Your mistake was assuming that physical appearance determines medical capability, and your strength was proving that assumption wrong. They sat quietly for a moment while the antiviral began its work. Sarah could see on the monitors that Zelthek's neural patterns were already stabilizing. Dr. Chen, Zelthek said, may I ask you something personal? Go ahead. Do you ever feel proud of what humans have accomplished? Of proving your species' medical superiority? Sarah thought about the question. I feel proud that we're helping people, but I don't think of it as superiority. Every species brings something valuable to galactic medicine. Veltar neural mapping techniques are far advanced than anything we have on Earth. Koranian surgical precision is incredible. Shimar crystalline healing is like nothing we've ever seen. But human disease resistance is just one tool among many. Sarah smiled. The beautiful thing about medicine is that it works best when we all share what we know. Neo. 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 That evening, Sarah returned to her office window to watch the sunset over Mercy Station. The patient lines were as long as ever. But now she could see hope in the faces of those waiting. Families traveling across the galaxy because they had heard that humans could cure their children. Elderly beings seeking treatment for conditions they had suffered with for decades. Dr. Velkan approached with the next day's schedule. Director, we have delegations arriving from 12 new species tomorrow. Each one represents millions of potential patients. Are we ready? The new medical staff from Earth arrived this morning. The additional equipment was installed yesterday. We can handle the increased load. 10. Sarah nodded and looked back out the window. In the distance, she could see construction ships building yet another expansion to the station. Soon, Mercy Station would be larger than some planet's entire medical infrastructure. Velkan, she said. Do you remember when this all started? When Zelthek said humans needed medical humiliation? Yes, Director. He was right, in a way. We did need humiliation. But not the kind he meant. I don't understand. Sarah watched as another ship full of patients docked at the station. We needed to be humbled by the realization of how much suffering we could have prevented if we had shared our knowledge sooner. The humiliation wasn't about human weakness. It was about human isolation. And now? Now we're no longer isolated. Now we're part of something bigger than ourselves. The stars came out as they talked, twinkling in the darkness above the medical station. Somewhere among those stars, human doctors were working on alien worlds, sharing knowledge that was saving lives by the millions. The clinic had filled before dawn, as it did every day. But now Sarah knew it would never stop filling. As long as there was suffering in the galaxy, humans would be there to help end it. That was not humiliation. That was honor.